You're gonna put your stick down. Then what we're gonna do is take your arms, put them up on your knees. You can play with different angles of hip and knee bend here. Just find what's comfortable for you. And then what I want you to do is actually just kind of let yourself fall back into some spine flexion. And here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna see if you can actually dissociate sternum retraction. So a lot of people confuse sternum retraction, meaning this bone in the front going backwards, with spine flexion, okay? So spine flexion would be more pulling my sternum down so that it points at the floor. I want you to see if you can dissociate between those two things. So if in this position you're just kind of relaxed, even a little slouchy, think about gently reaching your hands away from each other. Okay, so protracting like we did in our scat cars, maintaining that protraction, and then again exhale and see if you can get that sternum to go backwards, okay? There, and then you're going to bring your sternum forwards again, which will kind of cause your shoulder blades to come together. We've just changed the focus from squeezing your shoulder blades together to bringing your sternum forward, and then exhale, let that sternum go backwards. If you want to time it with your breathing, you can inhale, sternum forward, and you can exhale, sternum backwards. But really visualize that bone in the front of your sternum and visualize it coming forward and then coming backwards. It's going to cause some degree of spine flexion, but you're really focused on making your sternum go forwards and backwards versus pulling it down and pulling it up as you would if you were focused more on spine flexion and extension. So this is more getting your ribcage to go forward and back, which will be very helpful in trying to acquire scapular protraction and retraction because they end up being very similar. So that's just something that you can and most people probably should play with and get a sense of, is what it feels like for that sternum to go forward and backwards. That's a really helpful skill to have, just in life in general, but also when it comes to doing things like scapular mobility stuff. With protraction and retraction, you really want to think about sternum going back and going forward. In contrast, if you're working on spine mobility and you're working on flexion and extension, you want to think about sternum going down, sternum going up. They're very different, but they can be very confusing.